Welcome back to Paper Highlighter. In today's video, I want to dive into a topic that's been on my mind for a while. Pedro Jimeno from the family Chantel has often been portrayed as the villain, but after reconsidering everything, I've changed my mind. I don't think he's as bad as the show made him out to be. Let's talk about why. In my view, Pedro Jimeno isn't as bad as the family Chantel portrayed him. When I first saw Pedro and Chantel Everett navigate family drama and tie the knot on 90 Day Fiancé Season 4, I was hopeful for their future. They seemed to have the potential to become a powerful couple, much like Lauren and Alexei Bravarnik or David Toborowski and Annie Suwan. Unfortunately, Pedro and Chantel let viewers down, including myself, by making poor choices that allowed their families to create constant conflict. When they returned to the family Chantel in Season 4 and bought a new home, it seemed like they were ready to start fresh and live independently. However, they continued to struggle with unresolved issues and the persistent interference of their families. As Pedro grew more distant from Chantel, rumors about infidelity began to swirl, and his disrespectful actions tarnished his image, making him seem like a bad husband. In the end, I watched as Pedro asked Chantel for a divorce, marking a dramatic conclusion to their marriage. Pedro just realized him and Chantel weren't meant to be. While many viewers were upset with Pedro for how he ended his relationship with Chantel, I now believe that, with some distance and reflection, Pedro's actions weren't entirely unjustified. At a certain point in their marriage, Pedro came to the realization that he couldn't fix things with Chantel. He saw that Chantel would never meet the expectations he had for a wife. Coming from a middle-class background in the Dominican Republic, Pedro had big dreams for his future, and after a few years of marriage, it became clear that Chantel didn't share his drive or enthusiasm for life. I find it hard to blame Pedro for how he chose to end things with Chantel. Ending their relationship was always going to be complicated, especially after Chantel brought him to the US on a K-1 visa. Initially, Pedro tried to ignore the problems by throwing himself into his job, but this only worsened the situation, making him appear unfaithful to Chantel, who felt neglected. Ultimately, Pedro had to ask for a divorce because he no longer saw a future with her. Chantel's mother, Karen, was more of a villain than Pedro. I believe Pedro received an unfair amount of blame when other cast members were the true villains in his relationship with Chantel. Chantel's mother, Karen Everett, was a troublemaker from the start. She quickly positioned herself as the main antagonist of the show, trying to assert herself as an intimidating figure. Karen accused Pedro of being a sanky-panky and even threatened to tase him. Her involvement was a major source of tension between Pedro and Chantel, fueling numerous arguments and family disputes that likely could have been avoided if she hadn't meddled in her daughter's marriage. Karen never made an effort to improve the relationship between Pedro and Chantel. Instead, she used her influence to turn Chantel against Pedro. One of the most intense fights was sparked when Karen invited Pedro and his sister, Nicole Jimeno, to dinner, intentionally provoking an argument. This led to Pedro clashing with Chantel's brother, River Knight. However, instead of working to resolve the situation, Karen stood by, enjoying the drama. While Karen played a significant role in the turmoil, she wasn't the only one at fault. Pedro's mother, Lydia Morel, and his sister, Nicole, were also responsible for contributing to the irreparable damage done to Pedro and Chantel's relationship. Will Pedro ever redeem himself on a spin-off? I believe Pedro has successfully repaired his public image and restored a strong reputation on his business profile. While this might seem like a good opportunity for him to return to television, I don't think it would be a lucrative move. Unlike Chantel and her family, Pedro isn't focused on becoming a reality TV star. Instead, he's more interested in advancing his career as a real estate agent and leading a life free from drama. Furthermore, it seems that Pedro is not eager to share details about his romantic life, as shown by the lack of relationship-related content on his social media.